For a great guy. Top 5 thoughts on Pac-12 expansion. Number 5, they better do it or you'll look terrible. Like now that you've sprinkled, like out there that you're going to take some campus visits. Kliavkov's going to SMU. You can't do the David Bourne and do it for show. You have to do it, and you have to be. Ultimately, and if you do decide not to do it, you have to be absolutely, completely forthright with why, which I think is the other problem that Big 12 had, is that when it came out, you're like, okay, well, you did all this, you vetted all these schools, you had all these people do all these things, and then you didn't, and then you were like, why? And then like, we just don't feel it was good at this time.
Well, the thing now in this day and age is what's your why?
Yeah, exactly. But, you got to tell people why, because, again, there's a reason they're doing it. Yeah.
Be honest about it. We need to expand. We need more reasons for the networks to want to have what we have.
Yeah. I mean, are you afraid? Like, if you tell SMU that you're not going to come to the Pac-12, and then you publicly say, when people ask you what about SMU, and you kind of give the BS answer of like, well, it's not really about them. Well, it kind of is if you didn't want them. Like, don't do that. Just say it's not for us. It's not a match, and here's why. Like, just be honest about it. Number 4, the value of playing games in Texas, especially if SMU is one that they would add. The value of playing games in Texas is huge for recruiting, especially since you've got, again, all these conferences, the SEC's going west. You need to probably try to go east. The Big Ten's going west. The ACC is kind of stuck in that, where they are. But still, you've got to capitalize on what you can capitalize. And so, if somebody's going to take Southern California away from you, if you can maybe add a Dallas and then a San Diego back into it, that San Diego State would be the other one, then that doesn't completely. You're always going to have a scar, but it's not going to be an open wound forever anymore. You can kind of.
You said the SEC is stuck. You weren't.
I said the ACC is kind of stuck.
Okay.
Yeah, the ACC is not.
Because, somebody
stuck.
I know how it works.
No, yeah, sorry. Yeah. The ACC is kind of stuck right where they are because we don't know what they're going to do, 45 years from now when their grant rights runs up. And it's not that long. Number 3, TV value. Adding the Dallas market for your TV contract is going to be good. Adding that, the fact that you'll have interest in that market, it's going to make sense. The other thing about the TV value is if you decide to expand, you're telling the TV networks, we know who we're going to be. We know what we're going to do, and that's a huge deal. They're not doing that right now, at least not publicly. Right now, they're kind of doing that. Look, everything's fine. We think they should still be here, but they're not. But I don't think you can really take that tact honestly. Everything is going to be fine if you do it right, but everything is not fine based on what you thought the conference was going to be just a year ago.
Right.
So you can't just take that tact to it. Number 2, expanding east makes you more relevant because, again, if everybody else is going to have national, near coast-to-coast conferences, you need to kind of do that. The Big 12's doing it. Everybody's doing it that's able to right now. And look, the ACC expanded. They kind of just expanded. The furthest west they are is Louisville, probably, right? So, but they expanded too. They own technically that coast there outside of a couple schools. All right, but everybody else is going all over the country, every time zone and all that. You got to do that. Man, I tried to stop it, couldn't do it. That was violent, disgusting.
I sneeze internally, and I'll
Good
probably one day have a brain aneurysm because of it. Yours are violent, and they are like a windshield wiper in the rain.
Yeah, I understand that. Believe me, I feel it. It came out of my face. So I understand. All right, moving on now to number 1, to get past the sneeze, which was terrible and awful. They are deciding who they want to be. And that is the key to the Pac-12. They all have to decide what they want to be together, and they also have to decide what they're going to be individually. And right now, it's kind of a mess, right? I mean, it's a mess, but everybody's got different things that they are. I think the best example you can give is Stanford, because the world has changed so drastically for Stanford, and they are, with all their sports, not just the revenue sports, Stanford was big on winning in everything, right? That was their thing. Well, now it's going to be harder to win in gymnastics because if you have a really talented gymnast who, what's her name, Olivia Dunn, that's at LSU, but she can get better NIL money and TikTok money or whatever. If she goes somewhere else, then you're not going to get her, right? It's going to be different. So those things Stanford has to deal with, but they have different issues than Oregon has to deal with. Oregon doesn't have to deal with that. NIL, Oregon, they're fine. Washington, they're fine. Washington State and Oregon State are smaller, so they're not going to be able to compete in the NIL space like Oregon and Washington are in their own states, right? So, and then you've got, Colorado, Arizona State, Arizona, and Utah, who are kind of in a different part of the country and have different fan bases and different goals. And as where the Big 12 is kind of all together right now. The SEC is all together. The Big 10's all together. The ACC may not be, but doesn't matter, right? They're in it. The Pac-12 all kind of have differing goals, and they have to find a way to make that align.
Two ways to look at it. You don't really hear a lot of the president saying much, or even AD saying much, and that might be okay too, because we know that the Big 12 had like different agendas and narratives or whatever. Maybe we haven't heard a lot, which is good. Maybe they're a little bit closer knit than we think.
But I think that's good. I don't know about closer knit. And this is not about warring with each other. It's just about where you actually are at this time. Like, can you, if you're Stanford and Cal, can you be competitive the same way that you were before?
I don't see how they can. And that doesn't mean they can't. Stanford, as someone, I freaking cherish their success in athletics.
Exactly. But if you have built your institution on that, and then you have to make the decision that it's going to be less than it was because you just are unable to meet the rest of the market where it is, then has nothing to do with everybody else. That's not an indictment on anybody else. That just means that you have to sell something to your alumni base and to your school that is different. And then that's a huge change of saying, we're still going to strive for excellence, but we may not be able to reach the heights we are because there are external factors that are stopping that. And that's something that's hard for people to understand if they're not the ones having to make those decisions. And so it's where it's not about Stanford is this way and they're mad because Oregon State is this way. It's just they are inherently different. And they have different things that they have to be on their own.
And they're also inherently different, and they're not going to change in certain ways. Do you think they'll ever change?
No, I mean, nor
should they?
Nor do they have to. It's just that they have to find out how they work in this new reality.
They need to take a damn deep breath and relax a little bit in some cases.
But figure out who they are in the new reality, and that I think the Pac-12 is unique in that they have that kind of disparate, different schools that are way more different than each other than the schools in every other conference are. There's more similarities in the other Power 5 conferences than there are in the current iteration of the Pac-12.
All right, Jacob Wilson, great stuff today. Garrett Ross, thank you very much. Those of you in the chat room, everybody back and forth on so many